Welcome to this video series, which will explore the motivations and mechanics of the Verifiable Voting scheme. We will cover why this system exists, the underlying technology, the system design and security properties, the different voting models and their trade-offs, and other technical considerations. So why does this system exist? Because it addresses weaknesses introduced by using trust as a security mechanism. In any cooperative endeavor, each participant can categorize each action by whether they personally execute it, they can verify that it was executed correctly, or they have to trust that it was executed correctly. Similarly, they can categorize every piece of information by whether they personally produced it, they personally control it, they can verify that it was produced and handled correctly, or they have to trust that it was produced and handled correctly. When you have no control or oversight over the integrity of a process that matters to you, you are relying on trust as a security mechanism. So why is this a problem? The reliance on trust introduces a range of potential vulnerabilities. In the worst case, the trusted people or systems may actually be dishonest or even malicious. More likely, they may have incentives that don't align with yours. Or they may not have the resources or skills to perform their role perfectly. Or they may not have the resources or knowledge to handle your information adequately. Worse still, even the most security-conscious companies can be hacked or compromised. And how does the average user know whom to trust, or convince other people to trust them? There are entire industries dedicated to helping people, companies, and governments to make themselves trustworthy, to convince you to trust them, and to regain their security and reputation after a breach. This consumes large resources and introduces a significant barrier to entry for anyone wanting to assume the trusted role. Redesigning systems to replace trust with verifiability is not always possible or practical, but when it is, it can lead to significantly cheaper, more secure, and more easily accessible systems. That is the purpose of the Verifiable Voting system. It will be instructive to compare it to a standard vote or election. Typically, a vote starts when the organizer declares what the vote is about, when it will be held, and who is eligible to participate. All voters know these parameters. Participants then privately register their intent to vote, and the registration authority acts as a gatekeeper. Each voter knows if they were registered, but they have to trust that all eligible voters were registered, that only eligible voters were registered, and that nobody was registered multiple times. During the voting phase, the administration body authorizes potential voters. Each participant knows if they were granted access. But once again, they have to trust that all registered participants were authorized, that only registered participants were authorized, and that nobody voted multiple times. After submitting their vote, each participant has to trust that nobody could see their vote and their ballot was untraceable. Then the votes are gathered at a counting station, and everyone has to trust that no legitimate votes were lost or excluded, that no forgeries were added, and that no votes were modified on the way. Finally, the votes are counted, and everyone has to trust that all votes were identified correctly, and the final total was calculated and reported correctly. Here is a summary of the process. The verifiable voting system is designed to remove trust requirements. However, there is one exception. A central authority is still used to register voters. In some cases, whether or not they approve legitimate voters may be verifiable. Nevertheless, they must be trusted not to register illegitimate voters, and to protect their own cryptographic keys so other people can't register illegitimate voters. There are complicated ways to mitigate or eliminate this requirement, but as it stands, the verifiable voting scheme still relies on trust at this step. But everything else is either in control of the voter or verifiable to the voter. Specifically, voters do not need to trust that all registered participants were able to vote, and that only registered participants were able to vote, that nobody voted multiple times, that all votes remain anonymous, and that votes were not forged, modified, or lost, and votes were recorded correctly, and the results were calculated and reported correctly. As an added bonus, it is extremely convenient and cheap without compromising security. Anyone can deploy a vote, poll, or survey within minutes. Participants can vote from any internet-connected device anywhere in the world, and the results are calculated instantly and are guaranteed to be correct. So there you have it. 100% of Earthlings intend to use this scheme whenever they vote, from simple polls to national elections. Try it out at the link on the screen, or join me in the next video where we will discuss the underlying technology.